Hello everybody, I am Keaton of Kinetic Catholic Ministries, back with another video here for Season 13, Episode 18. I hope that you all are having an absolutely wonderful Tuesday so far. I know that I am as we kind of get into the midst of November. Before we get into today's video topic, I want to say, guys, we here at Kinetic Catholic Ministries, we are partnering with Project YM on a live event. So there's a book called The E Word written by Michael Marchand. I heavily suggest you go check it out. I wrote the foreword for it. It's a really good quick book on just evangelization, what it means to evangelize. And it has a lot of really, really good information on it. If you go to the eword.cc, you can get information about it. But if you go to the eword.cc/live, you can get an explanation of sort of the live event version of the book. And this is what myself and Michael Marchand will be doing. And it's something that I'm a part of, that I'm really, really excited for. And if you want to go and check out the live event, maybe all that it offers, figure out how to book it, please go to the eword.cc/live. That's the THE, the letter E, word.cc/live to check it out. And it's going to be an awesome event, and we really want you guys to start booking it. And I'm excited to see what happens with it. So what I want to talk about in today's video, it can seem like a pretty loaded topic, but I feel like it is a topic that is essential for us young people, something that kind of holds us back from fully living out our Christian faith. It's something that I know that we all go through, and it's this desire to fit in, right? We tend to kind of have it in our heads sometimes that our spiritual life, our life with God, and our school life, our social life, they can kind of stay separate. I've talked about this for little tidbits here and there in many videos over the years, but I think that it's good that we kind of bring it into one video and really dive into why is that? Why do we young people, even any person really, why do we so often try to separate our spiritual life from our school life, from our social life, from our friends? Why do we want to make it two different things so badly? I'm not asking this question in like a condescending, like, come on now, why do we, like, no, genuinely, why do we do that? Because we do that, right? And honestly, it's going to be different for a lot of people, and I want to clarify, when I talk in this video, I'm speaking in generalities, right? But in general, we have kind of a desire, a need, if you will, to fit in, right? Now, it's important when we're using terminology like fit in that we fully understand what we're talking about, that we're able to define it. To fit in means to be socially compatible with other members of a group. And I think that sometimes we lose this meaning, right? We think that fitting in is being compatible with the members of the cool group or the right group. Ultimately, living out our Christian faith, that's a way of fitting in with our fellow brothers and sisters in Christ. It doesn't mean that we don't fit in. And so when I say this longing to fit in, I want to clarify a longing to fit in with American society. And American society can essentially be defined as the entirety of the culture in the United States. The United States has a lot of subcultures, right? You could count Christian culture definitely as a part of the United States. But like when we're specifically looking at things like consumerism and Hollywood and sort of atheistic side of American culture, when I bring up society in this video, that's what I'm referencing, that sort of atheistic side of American culture. There's a difference between not fitting in and then not fitting in society. And again, when I say society, I mean that atheistic American culture. Guys, the reality is that being Catholic, and nobody ever said that was going to be considered cool, because it's not. That's kind of the point, right? Maybe we hear it sometimes like, oh, it's cool to be Catholic. Well, yeah, I mean, it is. The reality is that the world around us, our school, our social life, it's going to tell us that it's not, right? That living out our faith in any true degree, that's not really fitting in. That's being unnecessary. That's being maybe a little bit weird. Guys, being told that, that's okay. Nobody said being Catholic was going to be considered the cool thing, because it's not considered cool to be Catholic, and that's okay. That's the point. It's really not supposed to be, right? Because at the end of the day, to be a practicing Catholic, to truly live out our faith, is to swim upstream, to go against the rest of society. When society tells us to walk one way, Catholicism tells us to walk the other. As soon as we feel that we are fitting too much into society, well, that becomes a problem. So how do we fix it then? How do we fix this craving, this desire to be liked, to be accepted, to be welcomed by those around us? Guys, I'm not saying that everywhere we go, we need to be saying a homily to every other person. I'm not saying that we can't enjoy movies, TV, entertainment, things like that. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that once we try to separate our spiritual life from everything else, with the point really of fitting in, of being accepted, that's a problem. Because our spiritual life, our spiritual health, right, is so significant that it should be at the forefront of everything that we do. That includes school, that includes sports, that includes whatever activity it might be. Our faith should be present. There's a common misconception that we have to have like an hour set aside of free time a day in order to pray. We don't, right? We can pray anytime, anywhere. Do everything for the glory of God. Pray while playing or sport, right? Whatever it might be. Guys, we have a tendency to look over our spiritual life, to let it take a backseat to the other priorities in our world. I get it, we're busy. And honestly, I think that as young people don't give us credit for how busy we are. We have a lot of things to do, right? Like teenagers too, right? Like go to high school, be involved in clubs and activities or sports, whatever it might be. But also get a job and also make time for friends and also make time for family and also make time for homework. And now make time for our spiritual life. It's a lot. It's overwhelming. I get it. But at the end of the day, God doesn't ask us to have 1,000,000 hours set aside of free time. We can pray at any point, just for a minute. If we're able to pull out our phones for little increments at a time to where it adds up to like 6 hours a day, we're able to pray for little increments at a time too, right? We're able to talk to God. We're able to continue to put our spiritual life in the forefront. Because at the end of the day, the world tries to tell us that we need to be accepted. We don't. Nobody said being Catholic was going to be cool. That is okay. We need to rip up our cool card, right? Throw that out. Because at the end of the day, other people's judgment here on earth, well, yes, it makes perfect sense for us to care about it. Like, I'm not going to pretend like I'm perfectly away from it, right? Like, I sometimes care way too much about other people's judgment. At the end of the day, nobody else's judgment matters. I think that we forget that a lot. Nobody else's judgment matters. Now, people can judge our actions. We are allowed to judge other people's actions. We are allowed to say, hey, I think what that person did is wrong. But nobody can say, hey, that's a weird person. Nobody's allowed to say, hey, that's a bad person. That's not right. Judgment isn't right. Judgment is ultimately up to God. He created us, right, in His image and likeness. It's up to Him to judge us, and He has a right to. And so, yeah, I mean, it makes sense why other people's judgments could affect us, but ultimately, other people's judgments don't matter. What matters is God's judgment. And we should rather live in such a way that we are being judged by others for talking about God. We should rather be judged by others for talking about God than be judged by God for not. Let me repeat that. We should rather be judged by others for talking about God than be judged by God for not. Because at the end of the day, it's God's judgment that's going to matter. It really, really is. We need to get that into our heads. What society, and again, when I say society, I mean the atheistic side of American culture, what they tell us is cool, what they tell us is normal, what they tell us is fitting in isn't. Sin has been so normalized among our generation, guys. Sin, it's gotten to a point where it's kind of considered like weird to not sin, right? That's how normalized sin is. And so often as young people, we seek it, we want it, regardless, even though we may know what it does to our soul. Just because we can't see our soul doesn't mean it's not there. Just because we can't see the effects of it doesn't mean we can't feel it. Doesn't mean the effects will be made prevalent, especially over time. Guys, we're going to sin. We're sinners, obviously. But falling into the temptation of the rest of the world or the rest of society is something that we do so often and way too much. Again, with the point of fitting in. Everything that we do should be for God. Everything. Because at the end of the day, He is our ultimate creator. I'm not saying that we're not allowed to have friends who aren't Catholic. Obviously, we should. Obviously, we can. I'm not saying that we're not allowed to watch movies and TV shows that aren't Catholic. Obviously, we can, as long as it doesn't lead us into sin. What I am saying, though, is that if we're just separating our social life, if we're just separating our school life, and then, I'll pray at home over here, and at school I'll do school, that becomes an issue. It does. And I understand that it's difficult to really step away from that idea of coolness and to want to live out our faith. I understand that, okay? It is difficult. That's the point, is that it's difficult. And if we try to get over it on our own, then we're never going to be able to. Ultimately, we need God's help. We need the help of Jesus Christ right by our side to get sort of over that hump. And understand that at the end of the day, it is God's judgment that matters. And we as practicing Christians, we as practicing Catholics, we should be willing to shout our faith to the world and to not separate our spiritual life from the rest of our life, but to understand that our spiritual life is so essential that our spiritual life should be integrated into everything that we do. And before we get into today's Saint of the Week, when we're talking about sort of doing everything for God, the idea of putting God into our social life, or into our school life, into everything that we do. I have my little brother on here, who it's been a while. You were on here a couple years ago, maybe, year or two. Gerald. And Gerald has a real quick shameless plug for those of you who don't know, you're 11, right? That's what I thought.
Yes.
Okay. I was his age when I started Kid Catholic, when I started the YouTube channel. And so he has started a YouTube channel of his own. Do you want to explain it?
Yeah, so basically it's called Christian Gaming with Jay, and I don't play any gun games because that's not glorifying God. But playing video games isn't really glorifying God, but the gun games just aren't good.
Right. So it's called Christian Gaming with Jay. What all do you do on there? What kind of games, Joe?
I play Rocket League. I play Stumble Guys, and I'm thinking about starting playing Minecraft.
Sick. Well, it will be linked in the description down below for you guys to go ahead and check out and go check it out. Give it a subscribe. Now you're gonna shout me out on your channel and be kind of a two-way thing. Awesome. So now that the topic is done, do y'all know what it is time for now? It's time for
The Saint of the Week!
And today's Saint of the Week is St. Margaret of Scotland. Now, St. Margaret of Scotland, when we're talking about the importance of putting our spiritual life at the forefront of everything, she is a perfect definition of this. She's an 11th century saint, and she actually ended up going to Scotland when her family's ship wrecked there. And it landed in Scotland, and she ended up meeting her future husband, who just happened to be the king. They married when she was about 20, and for the most part, her and her husband's name was King Malcolm. Her and King Malcolm's relationship was fairly happy. He was kind of hard of heart, a little bit too stern, a little bit too harsh at points, but she, being his wife, was kind of able to soften his temper a little bit and actually had massive religious influence in really any political action that she took. She was a devout Catholic, and because of that, she influenced a lot of things really positively in Scotland, including her husband's religious views. She personally oversaw the religious education of all 6 of her children, but also on her way home from Mass, she would wash the feet of at least 6 poor people that she passed, giving them alms. In public, she was always surrounded by beggars. She never refused anybody. She wanted to make it clear that even though she was queen, even though she was royalty, ultimately she had a servant's heart, and ultimately she had a Christian attitude, which is what is most significant. Her Christianity was at the forefront of everything that she did, and even though it wasn't really at the forefront in Scotland before she got there, by the time she died, Christianity was definitely more prominent than it had been previously. She died just 4 days after her husband was killed in battle, and she truly has just a story of putting Christianity in everything, regardless of if it directly had to do with the spiritual life or not, right? People would think that, ruling a country, you can keep that separate, but in reality, if you're going to be a true practicing Catholic, and the spiritual life is going to be at the forefront of everything that you do, then it's going to be at the forefront of everything that you do. And St. Margaret of Scotland is a beautiful saint for that. And anytime that we feel like we're struggling to do the same ourselves, anytime we feel like, I'm struggling to be proud about my faith, I'm struggling to really let my faith out, we can always look through St. Margaret of Scotland for help. St. Margaret of Scotland, pray for us. So before you guys click off this video, once again, please check out theeword.cc/live for details about that live event. Also, I'm not just a YouTuber, I'm also a Catholic speaker. So if you want to book me to come and speak to your church, men's group, women's group, youth group, whatever it might be, conference, you name it, please email me directly at kineticcatholicministries@gmail.com or go to the website, kineticcattholic.com. Click the Contact Us page, reach out to us from there, and we can plan some details. Also, please check out the website in general, kineticcattholic.com. So many awesome things you can do on there. Your very own Kid Catholic shop is on there. All the videos are up there. Details about my radio shows. So many awesome things. Please do go check that out. Please click the red subscribe button down below and the bell next to it. That way you get notified when I come out with a new video. Please comment any saint or topic suggestions that you might have for future videos that you might be interested in seeing. Please check out all 3 of the social medias, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The link to all 3 of those will be in the description down below. As I mentioned earlier, my little brother's channel will also be linked in the description down below. Once again, I hope you guys are having a great Tuesday so far, a great November so far. Hope it's been a lovely, lovely day for you all. This was Keaton of Kinetic Catholic Ministries. I will see you all next week, and hi, Brielle.